What's up, big man?
What's going on?
All right. Hey, welcome everybody. Glad everybody is coming in. As you're coming in, do us all a big favor and go into the comments section there inside of Facebook Live and let us know where you're coming in from. We're going to be plenty of opportunity to ask questions. We're intending for this to be very, very interactive and you guys to have a good time here. Spend the next, 30, 45, hell, maybe even 60 minutes together. The entire point of this, guys, is that it's for this basically to get you in front of or get some of the experts out there that I have a ton of respect for, friends with, and really look up to get their information kind of in front of you, right? Pick their brain a little bit, understand kind of pivots they're making in their business, how are they keeping themselves, focused, where do they see the opportunities, all that kind of good stuff. And so this is a rare opportunity to spend the time that we have together, right? Or spend the time that we have at our homes, but spend it together and really kind of learn together. So I'm excited that we were able to put this together as quickly as we did. One of the very first guys I reached out to is here with me today, Mr. Mikey Taylor, literally with one text. The guy's like, are you kidding me? I'm totally down. Let's do this. So dude, I love you. I appreciate you doing this with me. And give everybody like a little quick 2-minute intro.
Okay, first off, the reason I was so quick to jump on this is because this is what's like really getting me through right now, because I'm a people person. I love being around people. And so this has been helping, but I will say I can't wait until like I actually get to like hug somebody. I know that sounds frightening, but I'm looking forward to it. But my, quick intro, I started off as a pro skateboarder. I was a pro skateboarder for about 15 years. I picked the passion, but the passion didn't have longevity. So I had to figure out how to ultimately make it out of my career and continue to move upward instead of spend my whole life talking about the thing I once did. And so from there, I started my first business. I guess moved into the entrepreneurial space, started a company called St. Archer down by you in San Diego. And we were fortunate enough to have sold it in 2015 to Miller Coors. And then from there, I started an investment group, which was originally for my friends to help educate and partner with them to create a path towards financial independence. And then it kind of grew into a bigger community. But now I spend all my time working on a company called Commune Capital. We invest in commercial real estate, apartment buildings, with storage unit investments, but that's where I focus all my time now.
I love it, dude. So talk to me about, how do you go from pro skateboarding to commercial real estate? I mean, I get the pro skateboarding, maybe even going to the brewery. But how do you make this other leap here? Let's just kind of start with that. Tell us a little bit about how that all happened.
Okay, so I'll start by saying when I told my parents I was going to be a pro skateboarder, they were terrified because I wasn't going to college. And, at that time, you had to go to college to be successful. That's what I thought my path was too. And so my dad was like, okay, well, how much money can you make being a pro skateboarder? How long can it last for? I didn't have any of the answers to give him. So he had somebody in his life that was managing his money. This guy, Randy Sonata, who had a multifamily office. And he was like, hey, if you can convince Randy to help you out, then okay, you have our blessing. And so I met Randy when I was 19 and tried to convince him that, I could do this, but I needed his help trying to figure out how I could, prolong it and be in a better position. And so I had somebody come into my life that taught me about financial literacy, the beginning stages, so that I could even put myself into a position of investing. Because like people hear pro skateboarding and they think, we're making millions. We're not. Like back at that time when I had this meeting with him, I was making 40 grand a year. It was nothing, right? So you can imagine a 19-year-old going, hey, Randy, I'm making 40 grand a year. I need to retire in possibly 10 years. Can you do it? And so.
Yeah.
So,
just check a couple boxes. Let me put that in the spreadsheet real quick.
Yeah, exactly. So he had to do a lot with me to like put me in a position to really get disciplined with my spending so that I could actually put dollars towards invest, because it just wasn't enough money. And then he started working with me on ways that I could increase my income. And then when we started looking at opportunities to invest into, his company had an alternative investment component of their business that focused on commercial real estate. So my first experience of investing was in his storage units that they were repurposing. And then it all started clicking. It was slow, But, I remember, and I think I told this story at your conference, the first check I got, right? My first distribution, it was like, ooh, okay, this is cool, but maybe this is like a one-time thing. And then the next one came, and then the next one came, and all of a sudden, like, this investing thing is the greatest thing ever. This is like, that became my new addiction. So that's kind of where the experience that led me into real estate investing is when I was looking at assets to invest into to get me to a point of financial independence, it was always real estate, really because of him. And so when I stepped out and wanted to help other people create financial independence, that was just the vehicle that I always loved. Now, there is more that goes into that. There is the element of diversification, but at least from my personal portfolio, that's been my strongest position for the last 15 or so years.
So Common Capital, you mentioned a couple different asset classes there. Tell me what a typical investment like you guys are out there trying to acquire. You're trying to acquire cash flowing assets.
We have two components. So we have an opportunity fund, well, not an opportunity zone, but we have an opportunistic fund, which is one of them. And we look for assets that we can repurpose. So one of the projects we're working on was a foreclosed Sears. So we bought a Sears building with the intention to add value in getting it shovel ready to develop a mixed use community. And then at that point, making the decision if that was enough value we added and let it go or continue to build on.
Nice.
So that would be one value add component. We had a project out in California, which is a psycho market to invest in, but where it was a real deep value add. Just it was a 34 unit apartment that we ripped to the studs and pretty much rebuilt it. That would be on the opportunistic side. On the cash flow side, it would be light value add apartment buildings, or even potentially like a core plus asset, which would be our cash flow fund.
Nice. And so, I mean, one of your things that I know you have become, and I don't want to lead you down this path too much, but it's something that I've always been fascinated by is when you and I started talking, you really have this knack for being able to raise private money, talk to people about it, get people excited about what you're doing. I mean, share some of your strategies. And it's kind of some of the stuff that you talked about at our event, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So as you know, raising capital is not easy. It's probably the hardest thing you could do. But one thing I learned from skateboarding prior to getting into the actual sales pitch, but one thing I learned from skateboarding is this idea that failure is okay. And so when we start skateboarding, we learn a trick. The first trick I ever learned was an ollie. And for those of you who don't skate, it's, you jump and the board comes with you. And that trick took me 8 months of trying every single day before I did it one time. And then the next trick I learned was a kickflip, and that took another 6 months to learn. And then I got to land it one time. And in skateboarding, that never ends. As you progress, it still takes you hours and hours to land a trick. So I got really comfortable in this routine of, if something doesn't work, that doesn't mean it's not supposed to happen. It just means that got me to the next step or a step closer to succeeding. So with capital raising, you hear a lot of people say no. And I think that's what's so hard for people is they hear 10 people say no and they go, you know what, I'm no good at this. I shouldn't be doing this. But that is not how it goes. It's just sticking with it, because people do say yes. And through that, you start learning kind of techniques where your message gets more clear. But you have to get past this idea that if someone says no, that represents my investment not being good or me not being good at my job. That's not what it means. It means that person is not in the position to do what you want to do, and that is okay. And you're going to move on to the next person until you find people that connect or are looking for your opportunity, which is the first thing. I think too, where my strategy, I think, really comes down to is I'm more of a long play guy. I'm not very trying to grab a sale in the moment. I kind of focus more on building a relationship and building trust with people, because when it comes to investing, you have to have a lot of trust. Like, you are handing your money to someone that you worked your ass off to get, and trusting them that they are going to be responsible and steward that your money accordingly. So I put a lot of time into just the relationship aspect before we even get towards the point of going, okay, is this something you want to hear about?
I love
which
that.
I think is probably the biggest thing. And then two, as you start talking to people, you start recognizing the type of person that resonates with either the opportunity that you have or the message of your brand. So then it gets a little bit easier to go, okay, that, let's call it doctor. Doctors don't really vibe with my opportunity. So I'm going to spend more time on, let's say chiropractors, whatever. Like, you'll start seeing these similarities in people or careers, and then you just kind of hyper focus on those people.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. So clearly we're in a really unique situation here, right? Everybody's kind of experiencing the exact same life event at the exact same time. You being a real estate professional right now. What are some of the, let's just talk about, first off, let's talk about mindset here for a second, right? And then we'll talk about opportunity. I mean, you just talked about it, right? I'm an introvert, so this is really natural for me, right? I got no problem sitting in my office all by myself doing this all day long, but I know the extroverts are about to lose their minds. Talk to me about, some of the ways you're keeping yourself sane, some of the ways you're keeping yourself focused, how your business is kind of operating differently, and then we'll go and talk about really what you see the opportunities out there.
Okay. So for me and the extroverts listening, this is a challenging time. It's more challenging for me personally right now than anything else because of that. Like, I want to be out there. I want to be doing things. I'm kind of high energy and I'm cooped up, in the house. So I would say there's been a couple components for me. It's really been having to work really hard on keeping my mind focused. And I'm being challenged by that, truthfully. Like, I find comfort in my routine, and my routine has been compromised through this. Right. And so I'm in this stage of having to find the new normal and new routine, but it's throwing me off. So, I went from, almost like being able to rely on my routine to keep me focused. Whereas like the girls, I dropped them off at school at 7. So I had to get up at 5, and I had to get from 5 to 6:30, these things done. Then I had to get them ready, then drop them off, then go into the office. And so now it's like, okay, well, there's nothing really forcing me to wake up at 5. The kids do their school whenever they want. So why can't I wake up at 7 or 7:30? And just that, like, trying to like justify getting off my routine has been a challenge for me, because all of a sudden now I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm up at 7:30, and now I'm not like, it's more keeping my mind sharp. Yeah. So yeah, I could get the same things done by waking up at 7, but I found for myself, if I don't stick to a routine and force myself to that routine, my mind starts drifting, and I find myself not as disciplined and sharp through this time. So that's been one thing, just really pushing myself to stay on routine where I don't really need to.
That's a great point. I've talked to a lot of people. I know a lot of people are really struggling with that. And that's probably the best advice that you could be giving somebody right now is stay in, it's okay for you to adjust your routine, but stay in a routine, right? Like, be just as disciplined as you were before. Even if it's, hey, I got to go to the office and I'm walking 11 feet, right? Whatever it is. But I mean, for a long time, I worked out of the house when I first moved to La Jolla. And I can tell you that was no joke. That was the way I thought about it. Like, when I walk into this room, this is business Kent. And when I'm out there, that's dad Kent, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. So I totally get that. Keep going. Sorry, man.
Yeah. So routine's been a really big one for me. Oh man, I'm making sure that, like, okay, one thing I've noticed is that I'm being more efficient with my time, being the extrovert, right? Like, when I'm with people, dude, I spend a lot of time just like connecting on some, like, hey, what's up with life? And, I might burn like 25 minutes, which I enjoy doing, but I've noticed when everything's digital and Zoom, it's straight to business. Yo, what's happening? Boom, 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 click, right? So exactly. What that's left me with, though, is more free time throughout the day. So I'm kind of seeing that, okay, I'm being more efficient now, but what am I doing with that free time? And just like, I'm trying to be really mindful of how I'm spending time right now. And if I do have free time, splitting it with, being focused on the family, because, dude, I've been locked up in the office, seriously, like, the day has been flying by. And so I don't want to like use this as like, okay, yeah, I'm home working, but like, I still don't see my kids as much as when I'm in the office. So being mindful to give them time, but also if I've spent time with the family. I don't have anything that I have to accomplish with my business. Using that time to either work on myself, whether it's something I want to learn, reading, and just kind of trying to equip myself with more tools through this. Because I'm really determined to come out of this thing way stronger than I went in. So I'm trying to keep my eyes focused on the goal.
I love that. I love that, brother.
And then with all that added on, we have a baby due in 4 weeks. So I'm like, you know, I've got my wife who's like, you know, she's starting to get uncomfortable, and you know, we're going through it. But it's actually, believe it or not, it's, you know, from like a fear level for both of us, it's been very low. We've both felt at peace, which we're thankful for. The kids are starting to get a little bit wound up, but I mean, dude, this is just the newest thing in our lives that we are going to work through and make the best out of. You know?
Yeah. I mean, look, like you and I were talking about earlier, I mean, what's the alternative? Right? I mean, what choice do you have? You can fall into one of two camps. Either you're going to come out of this so much better than you went in, or you're going to come out of this a shell of yourself, right? And you're going to be, you know, a shattered person that's just gotten beaten down by all this. But you get a choice in that. I mean, I think we both agree. Right. You absolutely get a choice.
That's right.
Everybody comes from, you know, different backgrounds. Everybody's got different circumstances, financially, you know, personally, whatever the case may be. But, you know, whether it's events like this or, you know, educating yourself online, I mean, you see all kinds of people out there offering you the opportunity to get more connected digitally, right? And to learn different things that, you know, most of us have never had a chance to just sit down for hours on end and learn something in a long time, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Where do you see 100%. The big opportunity coming?
In real estate or in general?
I know you've talked about it at Commune Capital, right? You had to have.
Of course, yeah. Specifically to real estate?
Yeah, sure. Well, we'll talk about real estate first and then go from there.
Okay, so this is what we're seeing. I'll start with what we're seeing now. A lot of people on the sidelines. You're seeing a lot of lenders on the sidelines. You're seeing a lot of people who had something in contract walk away from it. You're seeing everybody nervous right now. So seeing that that's the environment, there's always opportunity in that. So really, we have an idea of where we think the opportunity is. Right now, we're focusing on building up cash to take the opportunity. But there's a couple areas that I don't want it to sound like we're sitting on the sidelines, but we are waiting to see if the opportunity that we think is out there is going to present itself. I think right now, if you look at it, if banks aren't lending, there's an opportunity to lend, right? We'll see what it looks like. And I say that in the sense of, if you own apartment, I shouldn't even say apartment buildings. If you own real estate right now, everybody's waiting to see what this next rent collection looks like, and seeing if we are going to be taking a hit through that. And if we are, how long we need to prepare to get through that. So I think cash is king right now. But what you are going to see is there's going to be people whose loans mature or don't have enough runway to get through this moment, which is short term in my eyes, and they're going to be forced to sell. It sucks to say, because opportunity in this instance is mixed with a lot of pain, because I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be forced to let go of something when they don't want to. There's opportunity in that. I think it's why when you look at buying assets, regardless if it's real estate, even if it's the stock market, you always want to have enough cash so that you never have to sell during a downturn or a correction, because it will always come back up. The people that get punished are the ones that are forced to sell because they don't have the cash to keep them through it. So undoubtedly there's going to be opportunity through this, 100%. And the reason why I say what we're looking at, it's going to be on the lending side or the equity side, or both. There's just a couple things that I think we're going to have more clarity even in a week to come on where that opportunity lies.
Yeah, I think that you hit on a point, and it's such a tough thing to articulate, but the fact of the matter is, they are what they are. I mean, to your point, yes, there is opportunity. There is going to be a great deal of opportunity. I would love to know that opportunity was presenting itself without people having to go through some pain, right? So it's a touch little thing.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is that's the business that we are in if we are in the real estate space, right? I mean,
that's right.
We are in the business of solving people's problems, and there's going to be a lot of people that are going to have problems. Some markets are going to get hit much harder than others. I think that whether it is Las Vegas or whether it is Orlando or Miami or New Orleans, some of these markets that are really, really some of the first kind of tip of the spear stuff that got hit really hard from a tourism standpoint. That's and then, you know, of course, I mean, I don't think any market's not going to get hit, right? I mean, in fact, I've got a list I'll put in the group here of some economists just released what they thought some of the hardest markets would get hit first. And we need, to your point, we need to be prepared, right? You need to be aligning yourself with capital. You need to be sitting on dry powder as much as you can. You need to be acting like the hedge funds are acting right now. And that is getting your ducks in order, getting your cash ready. And then once somebody starts to understand what the floor looks like, then it's going to be a dog pile at that point. What's going to happen is the market is going to get flooded with buyers.
That's right. That's right. I think there are some good things, though. You kind of just touched on one in corrections like this. And look, I know this is a unique correction because this wasn't really stemmed from an economic standpoint. We got punched in the face with a virus with an underlying strong economy. So there is some dynamic to this that is different. But, you know, in scenarios like this, you see a lot of people start moving towards more in their view, stable assets, right? Their risk starts adjusting and they don't have the appetite for great risk. So in that economy, our world is great for that, right? So you are going to see a lot of dollars come in that, you know, are going to start moving towards alternative, which is our space, thankfully. Two, another thing, like we've been in a seller's market for quite some time. Like on the apartment side, we've pretty much had to accept any terms that a seller wants because there's 4,000 people 100%. Behind you that are ready to snap, right? That is not the case anymore. This like 10-day due diligence is gone. You are now, as a buyer, able to put yourself in a position to really do all the due diligence you possibly want, and I think have a lot more leverage on negotiating. So there are definitely some good things in this. And more than anything, I think there's more people that are going to panic and retreat than are going to push forward. I think that's just how our world works. And so this, I think, is going to, I don't want to say level the playing field, but it's going to remove a lot of people that have been in part of our industry that probably shouldn't have. And you're going to start seeing the ones who are willing to push through this really succeed. I think the next 3 years are going to be massive when it comes to wealth building. I think it's going to be huge.
Dude, I couldn't have said it any better. I mean, I could completely agree with what you're saying. I mean, so many of the, I mean, again, it is what it is. There's just so many of the competitors out there that really don't have, that shouldn't be in the space, quite frankly. And they have been, they're going to get pushed out, which is going to create this vacuum. And so my advice to everybody in the real estate space for the last 2 weeks has been, whatever you do, do not stop marketing. Whatever you do, keep in front of your prospects, cash buyers, private lenders, motivated sellers. Make sure that you are the loudest voice right now, because all of that, you're basically, you know, planting the seeds, right? And it's all going to come. And ironically, our business, I mean, kind of the way I got in this whole space was out of the recession, quite frankly. Because I had done so well in aligning myself with cash buyers. When all of my competitors went away, everybody came to me like, what the hell are you doing? How are you still crushing? And so then all of a sudden I was like, well, let me show you. And that let me show you is how it turned into this whole thing, right? And so there is definitely, this is not a time to, one, it's not a time to panic. And two, it's certainly not a time to take your foot off the gas. You agree with that?
Well, I couldn't, 100%. I think, look, even look at what you're seeing on social media, right? You've got the majority of people acting like this is a vacation, right? I'm so bored. I'm doing, how many times can I watch this show? That's what the masses are looking at this as. This is a time to relax. The people that are going to use this opportunity and push forward oh my gosh, they're going to destroy it they're going to destroy it when this thing opens up. And I think it's really encouraging too for people who are just getting started. This is such a good time. For us who have been in it, there's no concern, but there is more of a transition, right? We have to, adjust things and move. For anybody just getting in, this is all upside for you. This is going to be seriously awesome. So I think this is going to be a cool time, but this is a time to work. I think if you've been spending the last 2 weeks going, I'm so bored, I have nothing to do, take this time to readjust and prioritize, because I would use every second right now jam packing any type of information or strategy or business development that you can, so that once we can get out of here, you're hitting the ground running. And I think, for people who don't, maybe their business has kind of slowed down through this, or if you work for somebody else, you're like, yeah, I just don't have much to do. Learn. This is such a good time to educate yourself and do the things that you've always wanted to do. This is a phenomenal time for that. So I think this is going to be, I think it's going to be good in the sense of opportunity. I think it's going to be painful for the group though.
Yeah.
The masses. Yeah.
All right. Let me see if I got some people over here. If I can pull up the questions. All right. Okay. So guys, do me a favor. I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to give away some REWW swag here. First one to go into the comments and answer. What is the name of Mikey's company? We'll see if people paying attention here, Mikey. See if I can get some comments. Let me go over here. Some REWW swag here. First one to go into the comments and answer. What is the name of Mikey? Go back. All right, we got our winner. All right. So looking ahead, I mean, I know that you and I both kind of agree this is going to be a little bit of a short-term bounce probably, and things are going to start to move. What are the key indicators that you're looking for to let you know that it's safe to get back in, right? Kind of what are what are you guys looking at? What do you think other people should be looking at? That, you understand what I'm saying? Like, hey, when you guys see this, that's when you kind of know things are, I don't want to say dust is settling, but things are starting to move in the right direction.
Well, when the dust is settling, you're probably going to see a lot more lending happening, right? Like right now, the institutional lenders are lending. You still have Freddie, Fannie. They've increased a little bit on their points. But you have the majority of banks, which was so hot, on the sidelines. So I think once lending gets more comfortable, that's going to show you that they feel comfortable in the environment, and potentially the floor has been decided. I think when it comes to looking at opportunity, like, look, even if banks aren't lending, that doesn't mean there's no opportunity. You just might have to come in as a cash buyer, right? I know you focus on that. That's right. That might be what it takes right now. Yeah. That's right. So I would say when we're looking at deals right now, we're not expecting rent growth for the next year. So being way more disciplined in your due diligence, creating a pro forma that is more conservative than aggressive, stretching it out, and then possibly, this is one thing that I think works for our advantage right now is returns might be softer in the short term as compared to what they were for the last few years, but that's going to attract a lot of people looking for stability and comfort through this. So I think moving forward, the opportunity isn't going to be the greatest return. It's going to be who can consistently get a return through the short term. And then when you start going long term, I think it looks more typical to the 08s or even the 2001 scenario where, apartment buildings did really well. But on the lending side, look, if nobody's lending, you now have the opportunity to raise those points and lend. It now just becomes, how are you lending? Are you going to lend more disciplined than what you were before? And I think right now you could argue that you could do that, especially for like the hard money stuff. It's like, get don't go super high leverage, because there possibly is a risk of losing an asset right now. But dude, you definitely get to jack up the points on what you're lending your money for. So
100%, you're taking real risk.
That's right. That's right. But I think,
and you should get rewarded for that. Equally, I would tell you on the other side, that if you have a property that you're trying to sell and you've got favorable rates in place. You know, going out and educating yourself on how to offer seller financing and carry a note right there. I mean, you talk about a clear way to start to move your property and get people, again, anytime lending's tightening up, these are strategies that work, you know, and work very well.
100%. Something you kind of notice, what are you looking for right now? I think what a lot of people are waiting to see is, typically cap rates follow interest rates, right? And interest rates are very low right now. So is this a scenario where cap rates don't soften through this?
Right.
Potentially.
Yep.
Potentially.
Good point.
So I think people, you know, are waiting to see if what the valuation is. Do valuations change? What is our landscape moving forward? For us, you know, we're really big believers in being able to buy through any cycle, as long as when you're buying an asset, you're doing the right due diligence that gets you through something like this. And for us, like, dude, we didn't plan on a virus just jamming up the whole economy, but we keep high cash reserves. So it puts us in a position to not have to exit on buildings. So I think that's probably where the biggest opportunity lies, is more people that are forced to sell, and you being able to actually get a discount for once in, you know, the last 8 years, which you really haven't been able to.
I totally agree. If somebody's sitting out there, Mikey, and they've got, let's just say they've got, you know, they're making, I don't know, $7,000 a month. They're making a reasonable income, $84,000 a year. They've got 150 grand sitting in the bank right now. And they're recognizing, right? They're sitting here listening to us. They're here because they want to understand, you know, what does the opportunity look like? What's the landscape look like in real estate? What's the advice you give somebody like that right now?
If you're going to invest, so you have an active investor, a passive investor. If you're going to do all of it yourself, really educate yourself, because you're going to learn a lot as you get through deals, right? If it's going to be passive and you're investing in someone like Kent or myself, you still need to educate yourself, because you need to know the right questions to ask the people that are going to be responsible for your money, so that you understand the risk in front of you, because you can't just look at all real estate as equal, and you can't look at all syndications or funds as equal. So knowing what our strategy looks like, asking the group what their experience has been. If you're talking to people who have never gone through a recession or have never had a problem with a property, that probably is telling you that there is more risk with that group than somebody who has, because no deal ever goes according to plan. So you really want to, I think in a time like this, do extra due diligence and know that the group you're talking to has had issues, and you're more paying attention to how they responded to the issues and what the outcome was through that. And I think right now that is going to be worth more than somebody putting a 16 or 17% IRR on paper, telling you that's what they're going to make you. So I think it's more in the person than their pro forma right now.
So let me just reiterate what you said, so people that are taking notes. So basically, it's definitely get to understand who or what you're investing with, right? Educate yourself, asking the right questions. The right questions being, you know, I would and basically tell me about a property that went bad. Tell me about a property that didn't, you know, that you guys planned for it to go one way and it went south. Show me how that looked, right? And walk me through the scenario. Show me what happened through the recession, right? And last time you went through these cycles. And what you're learning to glean, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I want to make sure that I understand, is that what you're learning to glean from those conversations is, I mean, have they been here before? Do they have the scars, right?
That's right.
Like I said, scars matter.
That's right.
Do they have the scars that to let you know that, or are they just blowing sunshine up your ass and telling you that, hey, it's always cupcakes and rainbows and sunshine, which we clearly know is just not true.
That's right. That's right. And more than anything, the real estate market for the last decade has been insane. It's been on fire, right? So you've seen, it's kind of this moment in time where everyone looks good. Like the market has made us look better, or made people who aren't as good at what they're doing look really good. So you really want to make sure you're talking with people who have been doing this prior to, I think, the last recession, or have had projects. I think more than anything, you're trying to figure out who is going to be the best moving forward in challenging times. So you want somebody that's actually gone through a challenging time. I think also a good thing to remember is asking questions is good. And you see a lot of fund managers or syndicators, when they're asked questions, they look at that investor as, oh, he's just a difficult investor, or he's not worth my time. That's kind of telling you something, right? If you could find a fund manager or a syndicator that's willing to explain to you what's going on, that values your questions, and looks at you more than a dollar amount, and kind of really wants you to know that this is good for them, that's a good sign. Look, we're in the people industry. We are working with people. We are ultimately have the greatest, what would you call it? They're giving us the most trust in us. So it's like really being mindful of that. And I think the person does more than the project almost right now.
I love that. I love that. I mean, it's so true, dude. We're in it. We're in the the people business. That's what we do. And you got people do business, and people do business with people that they like, know, and trust. And,
that's right.
And the investment is just the widget, right? If you don't provide all that intrinsic value over the top, it really doesn't matter.
That's right. And it goes all the way.
Go ahead.
It goes all the way down to the tenant, right? It's not just investor. We invest in projects that are people's homes. So it goes all the way into relationships. And I didn't get a chance to read the whole thing, but Mark Cuban had a article out today saying that, how you treat your employees or tenants or whatever your business is through this time is going to define your brand for the next 10 or 20 years. So
I actually saw that.
Yeah. So I need to finish reading it, but that was an interesting, I think, thing for all of us to remember, that this is the first time that it's going to be very visible on how we react to this situation. The last recession, social media wasn't how it is now. So remember, this is the decisions you make right now are going to have a long-term effect. So be really cognitive of that.
Talk to me about, if we've got a lot of business owners on here, right? And the advice that I've been giving the last couple weeks is certainly, one, make sure that your own financial house is in order, right? If you do what you need to do, if your job as the CEO of this company to survive and thrive through this, treat your employees fairly and honestly and upfront. But if you need to cut back or cut salaries or do what you need to do, I mean, there's no nobility in going broke and going bankrupt, trying to wrap your arms around everybody, right? You need to survive. You need to get through this, right? We're in it together.
Correct.
Equally, you need to, like I've also said that on here, that you need to be making sure that you're doubling down on your market, or certainly not even doubling down, but certainly keeping your foot on the pedal on marketing, right?
Yeah.
Keeping driving revenue. And what other advice would you give business owners that we haven't really necessarily talked about, or maybe you just want to reiterate?
Well, I think the interesting example that you keep touching on is marketing. And I always, I can't remember who told me this, but there was a story back when Reebok was competing with Nike, and Reebok was winning in that battle. And there was some correction in the market. This is before my time, apparently, but there was some correction in the market. Reebok brought their marketing dollars down, and I guess Nike tripled down on marketing. And that's when you saw like the Bo Nose and then the Jordan. You saw Nike just explode beyond Reebok. So, remembering that it's like the principle of don't do what everyone else is doing, be the outlier, right? If you're seeing everybody pull back in marketing, that means that's your opportunity to push forward on it. If you see everybody retreating, you move forward, right? You do the opposite of the masses. So you're going to see a lot of people retreat in marketing. And if you're in a position to at least keep it going, it will pay off for sure.
What is the Warren Buffett saying that
only be fearful when others are greedy? Oh no, be fearful when others are greedy, and only be greedy when others are fearful.
That one. And then the one I also love is where he's like, it's when the tide goes out that you see who's naked.
100%. It's such a good one.
That's where we are, right? The tide's going out. We're about to find out real quick who's been swimming naked, right? Who's doing it, and who's just kind of been posing. And it's just such a great opportunity. And again, I've been saying it for a while now. You can either look at the opportunity or the obstacle. And guys, clearly, I mean, Mikey and I are not dumb, right? We clearly know there's obstacles out there. We're all facing them. but you're going to get a lot more of what you focus on. And if you focus on the obstacle, I promise you, this is a very, very overwhelming time. But if you focus on the opportunity, then you can easily begin to energize yourself and see this is a really, really rare chance that happens, maybe once every 10 or 15 years, and certainly has never happened under like these kind of circumstances.
That's right. That's right.
Where we're all being forced to, in like this. This is just out of this world. It's just a chance, man. And you gotta explode on it. You have to go for it. If you have the means, and if you don't have the means, you're not over, right?
Yeah.
Mikey talked about having conversations with high net worth individuals and reaching out to people about investment. I mean, there are lots of partnerships and lots of opportunities that will be born right out of this as well. I mean, I don't want you to lose. Hey kid, I've only got $10,000 in the bank and I've got to save it all. And, I'm trying to take care of my family. I totally get it. Right. I mean, people like that, but that doesn't mean you don't get a pass. There are too many tools out there.
Yes, that's correct. And I think there's 2 points I just thought of as you said that. One, social media has made it seem like everything needs to be done right this second or we're going to lose our opportunity. Right. In real estate investing, it works a little bit slower than that, which is one thing that's good about it. So don't feel like if you can't seize the opportunity that you're going to miss it. You can still find opportunity through this. This is going to be I think a long window, but I think the point being, if you can act. Another thing too, I think it's good to remember, this is going to be painful. It's painful for all of us, right? Like even like, dude, having to change business it's hard, right? But don't forget that pain isn't bad. Pain is actually good, right? It's these painful moments that really kind of the idea of we're brought to our minimum to achieve our maximum, right? Like don't hide from pain. Pain is what's going to get you to become better through this. It's going to get you to change what's happening that might not be working in front of your life. So don't get so caught up on this is hard, this hurts. It hurts for everybody, but the ones that could look at this as a blessing and that this is going to catapult them forward, I'm telling you, the return is going to be 10x, totally, for sure.
All right, so guys, if you've got questions, go over into the Facebook comments. It's giving me a little bit of trouble, but let's see if we can get some questions here from Mikey. If not, then I'm going to let you out of here, brother. We'll see if they start popping up here. All right, so you guys don't do really any single family at all. It's all commercial, right? I mean, that's really
we do all commercial.
And commercial, I mean, I know you do residential commercial, but you do that. Is there any real strategic way, or is that just kind of the way your mentor kind of brought you to it? I mean, I'm asking just I'd love to hear your answer.
Okay. So, one thing I should say, because, I just talked about experience and going through things. Like, Mikey, you started this company 2 years ago, right? My mentor, who my dad basically forced me to get his approval when I was becoming a pro skateboarder, is actually my partner in my company. Him and his brother, who owned their advisory and then also the real estate side. So thankfully, I have a great team to lean on. I would say the reason why I've been more attracted to multifamily is, to me, it feels easier for me to scale. And I understand that might not be everybody, but I like the idea that I could pick up a 200-unit building in one swoop, as opposed to having to pick up 200 single homes. Yeah. So I like that element. I like that element of it. Two, I came from skateboarding, which is very creative, and we're in a lot of like urban areas, and you have like this like downtown community vibe. And so I like finding apartments in those areas because I feel like it gives me a little bit of a strategic advantage and some comfort knowing that like I'm able to market to a group that I know, as opposed to single family. I don't want to say it's bad. I would just say it doesn't align with myself as well, if that makes sense.
I totally get it, dude.
Too, and then I think the financing. I think you could argue that that financing could, I like the financing side and the commercial side, even though it's a little bit more difficult, but if you're trying to do it at that scale, I like that side better.
What do you, so what do you mean by that? Tell me what you mean by that comment.
So let's say you're getting a loan. Okay, let's say you're not buying a portfolio, right? Let's say you're trying to build a business on just acquiring single family homes, right? And this is your space, so feel free to correct me.
Oh, no, I love this. That's just...
You go one house, one loan, one house, one loan,
Yep.
one house, one loan, right? How many residential loans can you get? Is that I believe there's a requirement. This is why I'm leaning on you, because this is not my expertise.
Yep.
Where is the limit on which you can no longer get residential loans on a portfolio?
When you reach 10 loans, then you have to basically put a commercial line of credit in and basically take them all out and then start the whole process again.
Yeah. So I think, I guess what I'm trying to say is it seems simpler in maybe my head where I could go.
Honestly, I can't argue against that at all.
Yeah.
I literally cannot argue against it. I think it's, I think the misconception, quite frankly, you know, we're all just a product of the way we were raised. We're all just a product of our experiences, right? And so you came right up through the commercial side. So commercial seems very natural to you, right?
Yeah.
And so, but I think a lot of people sitting in the residential space look at commercial, and I don't know why this is. I've always been fascinated with the psychology of this, but they see it as bigger, more complicated. It just seems, it has this aura about it that it's more complex, and it's a little unnerving, quite frankly. And the reality of it is, you know, if you ask, I have so many of my friends that are in the commercial space, and every one of them will argue exactly opposite to me. Like, dude, it is 100% the other direction.
100%. I'm telling you, man, the idea of managing all of those homes sounds psycho to me. It sounds so much harder to me, you know? Yeah, I think I agree with you. I see it all the time. I think because we know that we could buy a home, because that's typically, if you're in a position, you could buy your house, right? You're like, oh yeah, I did it once. I could just do it again and just rent it. It seems right. It seems easier for some reason as opposed to going a 50-unit apartment. Are you kidding? That's like a business. I don't know what that is. So I recognize it. That does happen as well. But being on this side, yeah, this is,
You're like, what?
I'll tell you, all the reasons why I don't want to be involved in single family are because it seems more difficult to do it. You know? Oh, so, and then also the other thing I would say too, and I think this depends on what your strategy is, but we are buy and hold people. Like, we want to own things for a long time. And so what has scared me about single family when you do it at a small level is if a renter leaves, you can't rely on other doors to cover your rent unless you have a portfolio, right? You can make the argument.
You have to do it at scale. I mean, and you know, luckily, obviously, that's our business, right? We manage 6,000 of them, and so
and that's why with you, it's so you are. I think operationally, you are such a savage because you do it so well, but.
And it's not even me, dude. It's my brothers and my best friend and my father. But I mean but it's a different conversation, right? It's easy to look down from that because we solve those problems for so many people. But to your point, you know, any investor that would even do business with us, we're clearly telling them, look, if you don't plan on buying 5 to 10 doors here, this is not this is not where you need to be, right? And,
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Well, dude, this has been fun, man. I'm glad we did this. I had a blast with you. I really appreciate you taking the time out. I gladly do this with you anytime whatsoever.
Me too.
So if there's anything I can do for you, how can people reach out to you? How can they connect with you?
Okay, I would say Instagram is probably the easiest way. It's just my name, Mikey Taylor. You can kind of find anything else from there. But also, if anyone's interested, I just got this new text group, right? So you can text me, and like I've been kind of keeping in touch with my community there. But if anybody wants to text me, and I don't have the number memorized, so I'm just telling it to you, 805-953-8938. I sent
38. Okay.
Yeah, I send a weekly like mass text to everybody, and then I respond to as many people individually. It's been a pretty cool thing so far. So
especially for the extrovert side of you, right?
I'm telling you, dude, I'm just like, people, I need more people.
All right, brother. Well, I love you, man.
All right.
Appreciate
Love you,
everything.
dog.
Take care, dude.
Thank you, dog. Take care.
See ya.